8105, 8105. Checking on the speaker, 2609, 2609.
I'm a detention service officer for the Tulare County Sheriff's Office. I am a administrative and technical assistant to the deputies, to the sergeant, and to the lieutenant. I handle processing, background investigation, booking, and paperwork.
Do we have a lot of guys still coming back?
I went through a battery of tests, voice stress analysis, psychological analysis, and interviews. Why am I good for it? I can handle stress very well. I thrive in it because I don't panic. From here, I'm going to promote to correctional deputy, transfer to a patrol deputy, hopefully graduate to Team 1, which is investigations, gang task force, narcotics, arson, theft and murder, and assaults. And hopefully from there, go to the SRU gang task force, which is like SWAT. I feel like there's not enough decent cops. I don't really want to protect people. I just want to take down criminals. My first week there, there was a situation where a couple of Aryan Brotherhood members were very, very not pleased with one of their former members for giving up secrets. And as soon as they got a hold of him, they stripped the skin off of his face with their shoes. We separated them. The deputies, first of all, had to fight them, so they probably got a couple of batons to the face. They put them under disciplinary infraction, which is basically no phone calls, no letters, no talking to people, no anything. I believe we broke up their gang, sent them all to different units, and then put the guy who they'd stripped the skin off his face back in the general population and gave him an early release for his cooperation. I think it's hard for people who work this job to reacclimate to a normal life. For 4 days out of the week, all day long, you are a cop, or you're a sheriff's deputy, or you're whatever your position is. You're that. You speak in code. You act accordingly. Everything is done this way and that way. Everything is very strict. It's very military. And then the other 3 days, you're supposed to be a normal person. I have slipped and started to use code on accident. I've been talking to people and tell them, hey, what's your 20? And really, I'm asking them where they are. Hey, what do you want to do later? And instead I ask, what's a 76, which is where are you going? But I know a lot of deputies who can't separate their prison life from their real life, or their prison life becomes their real life, and their real life becomes something that they have to fake and go through the motions with. So there's an issue with deputies being more institutionalized than inmates are. Because people always talk about inmates being institutionalized. You're in there for a year. Eventually you get used to it. Someone tells you when to get up, when to take a piss, when to take a shit, when to eat, when to shave, when you can make phone calls, when you can write letters. Basically how you can live your life. Except deputies get used to that too. Deputies also get institutionalized, but from the other way around. They're used to giving orders. They're used to people following them. They're used to being in charge. And all of a sudden on the outside they're not, and they can't handle it, and they kind of lose it. Usually some of them will get it in check. Some of them will be dropped down to a different position where maybe they're not as in charge. Maybe they're not in a unit. Maybe instead they're processing paperwork, or maybe they're running a transport van, transporting inmates to another facility or to court or something. From what I understand, it doesn't happen all that often, but it is a case. It does happen often enough where it is an issue. I would say that the only video or the only movie I've ever seen that's come close to depicting actual prison or jail life would be American Me. Everything else, it's either way too... They depict it as either every cop in there is corrupt and on the take, and they're all just willing to do whatever they can, or they're depicted as all the cops being massive, just assholes who go around just beating inmates because they feel like it, and neither of those are true. Or all the deputies are on the up and up. They are all very straightforward. They're there to do their job, to get paid, not to get fired or take bribes, and none of them take pleasure in hurting any other inmates. They use force when they have to. I've been told it's a lot like being in the Army. You joke about things that you wouldn't be able to joke about on the outside. Things like prison rape, murders, beatings, dudes doing drugs, finding drugs in people's asses. You joke about that. You laugh about that because that's really funny. And those are jokes you wouldn't be able to make on the outside without someone being upset. And instead you get a room full of laughter here. Your humor goes dark. Everything about you just takes a darker tone. With that, you become bonded very quickly. it's almost a band of brothers feel. As long as you're working with a good unit and a good team and a good sergeant, everybody's there together, everybody's working together. A fight gets called out, everybody busts out, you're running, everybody's sprinting down the hall at full speed. They're there to back up their friend and their brother, and that's what it is. Yeah, best job I ever had.